Will continue the debate on the annual crime statistics which were released by the minister last week. Subsequently, the president has called a joint sitting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces to discuss gender-based violence and violence in Gauteng in particular. This means that our committee and our cluster will be seized with an enormous responsibility to respond to the call of the president. It is the first time in the history of our democracy that a president calls a joint sitting. A joint sitting is normally called by the speaker. It is not called by the president. So if the speaker calls a joint sitting, it is almost a natural phenomena or occurrence. But when a president calls a joint sitting, it is a matter of national importance. We have all listened to the president's address to the nation, and we as a committee have to respond and respond actively to the president's call and to the nation's call. The response is not only about discussions any longer. The response will have to be active. We'll have to look at the finances, the budgets, the actual response on the ground in each police station, in each area commission, regional commissioner's office. We need to see a response. We want budgets and we want action plans and no longer discussions. The crime statistics were met with widespread criticism. And I think this is a just criticism. There's increases recorded in all categories of contact crime, especially in sexual offences, including rape. We have to focus on murder and sexual offences and our response to this. Our follow-up meeting will attempt to analyze the situation of the overview of 2018-2019. It means that the crime statistics that we have are already dated. We do not have the crime statistics of the last 6 months included in the report we received by the minister. If we were to include the report of the last 6 months, I'm sure the picture is not going to look better. The picture is going to look worse. So let us not anticipate any problems or difficulties. We'll listen to the police, General Sitole and your team. Thank you very much for being consistent in coming to brief the committee. We'll have sufficient time for the members to engage with the crime stats. Our key concern is the increase in sexual offences. The cases in 2018-2019 increased by 4.6%. Incidents of rape increased by 3.9%, attempted sexual offences 3.9%, and contact sexual offences by 2.7%. It is very difficult to compare data. And the data that we have, in some instances, the data relate to averages, and in other instances, so the key manner in which you have aggregated, the statistics is of importance for me. I need to know, and the committee needs to know, whether there's performance or underperformance. Honorable Minister, you are welcome. We would like to know how, and the Minister alluded to this, that crime statistics cannot always be a measurement of performance. Is it correct to use this measurement to estimate whether there has been performance or underperformance? SAPS should indicate what steps are taken to prevent any manipulation of statistics at any station level, and we also need an indication of which factors are used to determine the performance of police stations. Are statistics not subjective? Are these statistics not vulnerable to subjective decisions made by officers required to capture statistics? The reason why I'm asking this, Honourable Member Mofokeng, in the response to the Minister's budget speech, spoke about gender-based violence crimes that are not reported, spoke about incidences where gender-based violence is reported, but where it is then not indicated as such, or cases are then not reported as such. So we're keen to have an explanation why police officers sometimes refuse to open a criminal case, why they do or do not open cases under particular categories, and what kind of response we should have as a committee. Again, Honourable Minister, Honourable General, you have the committee's support, unconditional support in the fight against violence and the fight against crime. We'll do our oversight role in a manner which complements your work. We are not on an adversarial battlefield. We cannot be fighting one another. We can only but hope to work with each other. With those introductory comments and remarks, I wish to hand over immediately. Remember, it's a continuation of last week's meeting. We are going to do the only item on the agenda is the continuation of the briefing by the Minister and by the South African Police Service on the 2019 annual crime statistics. Honourable Minister, we wish to give you an opportunity. I do not think that I need to introduce you, Minister. I just need to thank you for being here and give you an opportunity. When we ask questions, we'll introduce the Minister of the committee. Thank you, Honourable Minister. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Chairperson. One is in the bit of a catch-22 situation. The cabinet is starting now at 9. I think the cluster safety needs to make some presentation in cabinet vis-a-vis the criminality stroke xenophobia. So it's, as I'm saying, it's a catch-22 situation, but there will be other ministers. But the real one I can't avoid is a memorial service at 11 of Warrant Officer Jones that was shot and killed on action by the criminals when he was attending to the complaint in one of the shebeens last week. Fortunately, there were 2. One young man survived, this one could not. So I'll request then at 10:30 I move so that one is in the to be in the memorial service of our warrant officer. So far, I'll then just go back that the presentation I made, and we discuss the the statistics. From our sides,
Sorry, Honorable Minister, my apologies for interrupting you. We have accepted and received your apology. We know it's Cabinet Day today. We, in fact, did not expect you here, so we are very delighted to have you. We know it's Cabinet. Minister, you could just introduce the presentation, and then we are happy to release you. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
no, there's thanks. That will be fine. I have apologized in the cabinet, so for the hour where I could not apologize is the memorial service, so I can't miss the memorial service. But cabinet, I think I have apologized, so that one can get a broader understanding and the broader contributions of the utilization of the crime statistics to improve the situation.
in the townships, the statistics went down because no one would go in the street carrying a bottle of a beer or anything or a knife because they would be afraid. If they drink, they will drink inside the yard. And that, in a sense, brought a little bit of safety to our people. And I was happy that time that even that unit, if you are drunk in the street around 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock alone, they would arrest you and keep you safe and release you in the morning and go home. So that used to change uh, the statistics. But unfortunately, there were some of the over what we call overreach by some of the policemen in that unit. They were doing a very, very, very good work, and hence they had that negative attitude against. Our people had a very negative attitude, and it was precisely by opportunists who are doing crime, because that unit used to deal with crime effectively. Just by appearance, they will run away. But I will come back in that. But lastly, Chairperson, is the issue of is
Please,
the
honorable members.
yeah
Lawton.
yeah that lastly is that we are talking about the uh, intelligence driven uh, uh, investigations. So I repeat again, I said it in our meeting that we need to strengthen the police need to strengthen the intelligence department. Thank you, Chair.
For interrupting you and shortening you. Honorable Member Fako.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think, Chairperson, before we went for the oversight in here in the Western Cape, I had a total different view of the police minister. But after coming back from that oversight, I had a clear understanding of the huge responsibility that the police have. And I think it will not be fair if we don't say thank you to all the men in blue and the ladies who are doing a very wonderful job under very difficult circumstances. And Minister, we know that this is very difficult, but you are trying your utmost best. But Chair, I want to go back to what other members were saying. If we as a committee we don't assist SAPS in making sure that we kill the root cause of such crime, the factors. This is something that was highlighted when we went for an oversight. The social factors that are affecting these people who are committing crime, dysfunctional families, social ills, young people who are in conflict with the law. I think, Minister, it's important that we have a boss parade, as it was alluded to, so that we can kill the root causes, because you might not specialize maybe new development in education in other factors, because these are the main cause factors that people are committing crime. But also, Minister, one of the things that I've been saying, that people are complaining when they go to these police stations, they are turned back. Ne? But what we want the department to do is to make sure that in each police station, at least we have social workers. I think you need to have that partnership with the Department of Social Development. We have social workers that will be in each police station for 24 hours. You need to have psychologists for some of your staff members, because because it's very difficult for them to work under these circumstances. You know, when we visited the Western Cape, there was an issue of overpopulation. And I think this is something that you need to speak with the provincial government of the Western Cape, especially human settlement, because some people are occupying houses which, when you go to this house, you don't even know the owner of the house. I think that is something that you need to have that conversation with the Minister of Human Settlements. But also, one of the things that one of the CPF members have raised in Delft, the deputy chair, the relation between the provincial SAPS and there is no relation at all. They even mentioned that in the Western Cape, whenever they need assistance from the provincial government, they don't get it from SAPS. And I think even when we went for oversight, the provincial commissioner was not there. So I think that that is one thing that we need to look for, chairperson. So now that you know that the sexual crimes and domestic violence, the numbers have increased, if you can tell us what are your plans, and maybe if you can give us an indication of the convictions of children to children crimes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member Faku. Honorable Mofuke.
Thank you, Chair. If I knew that you were going to say that the minister will be leaving, I would have said that we start here because it will be unfair for those of us who are consistent in this committee that get less time to speak. I take offense to that, and I'm registering and actually protecting those that are consistent in the committee. And people that come late, they just speak forever, and for us, it becomes less. I really want to raise that as a concern. Chair, I want to leave where Member Majosi.
Sorry, I have noted that and I apologize.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I want to actually add on where Member Majosi was talking about the domestic violence and also the trend on checking on how many women have killed or have been killed after taking the protection orders. The last time, Minister, the question was not answered when I was saying domestic violence registers in the police stations, are they used or not? If they are used, can't we get the list of in this police station so many registers or how many people have been registered, and this is a trend that will be able to answer what the member Majosi was saying. Also, something that is embarrassing, Chairperson, I think it was raised by the whip, Honorable KB, saying that Gauteng is embarrassing, especially for those who come from Gauteng as us. When you do the stats, are you checking on the population? Because I'll tell you, in 1994, Gauteng's population was 7 million, and now is 14. And when you do your plans so that you can be able to fight crime, I'm thinking that was supposed to be something that you look at to be able to have deployment in the right way. Because I believe that you do the stats so that you can have a better planning and be able to have a better operation. The other concerning part is about this Brook Lane police station. This Brook Lane police station in Tshwane is the only police station that reported actually serious crimes and high profile. And my question is, why Brook Lane? Because it's used by all the organizations that are against this government. It's not a secret. You go and check it, you'll see that is a trend. People will live from far from Johannesburg and open up a case in Brook Lane. And I really want to see who's in Brook Lane and why Brook Lane, because police stations are the same. The other one, it will be on the issue of the CPFs. I'm actually adding on my colleagues. When we were in Western Cape, we discovered that the CPFs and the neighborhood watch, there's a fight between the two. But the other thing that was also amazing, most of the chairpersons in the CPFs are women. And I was excited being a woman, seeing that women are out there to actually prevent crime. But to my surprise, when we were visiting other areas, I discovered that actually most of those women are actually having families of gangsters or families that are in prison. Then the question is, are we going to be able to start vetting these people? You cannot have a chairperson of a CPF who's a jailbait or who's been in jail for many years and come and be the one who helps the police. Then you'll have a problem of police not actually communicating with them because they know that somebody who's been pushed here is a gangster. And I'm saying this because CPFs are supposed to be functional. But now, actually what we get is that they are not functional. And we are talking about 17 community reported crimes, which we have to focus, and these CPFs are supposed to be centered to that. Lastly is about the firearms. Most murders are committed with firearms. And the question will be, Minister, will you agree with us that we need to look at the Firearms Control Amendment Bill carefully before we rush on it? Because I can see it's something that happened last week, and we decided that they must go back and then we must be able to meet with yourselves and the team so that everybody's here when we discussed it, because stakeholders were there and there were contradicting information coming. We must have a consensus in firearms control, because it's actually very clear that those are the things that are there. Lastly, why do you have unbranded cars of police, South African police services, all over? And if you know a police officer, you'll say, oh, this is a police officer. Even if you don't want them to be having a mark, they must be having a certain sign, because some of them are used as family cars. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, um, these crime statistics strengthen the view that South Africa has one of the worst figures for sexual offences. And Honorable Minister, you have raised this. Now, if my calculations are correct, and I've paused this with the researcher, it means that 41,583 men and women were raped during the last financial year. And then I went to another statistic which said that where we have children in conflict with the law, 2,657 children were involved in some form of rape. Either they were raped, or I'm not sure if they raped someone, which I've seen happening. Now, if the crime statistics strengthen this view, and sexual offences have increased over the year, we see today the president has called a joint sitting. It's the first time that a president in a post-democratic South Africa calls a joint sitting of parliament. Normally it's the speaker who calls that joint sitting. What do we say as a committee and towards this unprecedented outcry? How do we fight the war against, it's a war against women and children? Because you could put these people in one city and you could say that every single person in the city has been raped. Men, women, children. It's a war. So, Minister, do we have to review legislation? Would the legislation that we have be adequate? Secondly, do we have enough resources that we can make available? Should we make additional resources available? Should we appeal or take a decision? What would we require? What would be required of us to have a meaningful impact on gender-based violence? I think our country is tired of talking. We want to see meaningful action. Does that action start with a summit or a Bosberaad, as the members have asked? What advice are we giving, and are you, as an honourable member that we trust, and the minister, we trust you, what advice are you giving the president on this matter? Thank you, Minister.
Thanks. I hope you also push me to answer short and quick so that I can go. I want to start with your comments, Honorable Chairperson. I said, as I was speaking at the funeral of young Uyinene, can we keep this anger and this activism where it is at the present moment? That's a call I made. That keep this anger and activism where it is. Don't drop your guards on it. But I also said in the funeral, can we deal with women's issues as women's issues rather than faces and names? I know it's got some kind of insensitivity, but it's a fact. That let's deal with issues of women as victims, I hate the word, as the issues of women rather than names and faces. I have a picture that it worries me, that I've made it my barometer of the women's issues. the shooting of 6 young girls in Philippi. Shooting of young 6 girls between the age of 18 and 25, all shot, boom, dead in one room. There was so much less noise, if there was any. There was so much less noise, if was any form of it. The response, even from government, even from province, we had to invite the Minister of Social Development, because there was one 3-year-old that the mother died with him in her arms. As we entered the house, he wanted to run, go through the window. That's how he was disturbed. But there was so much less noise about it. Chairperson, I would like to get the stats. How many women have died after we nene? And how much noise have we heard about them? So I want to make this clear and call. Let's make women's issues. Not because it's a daughter of Bheki Cele. I'm very sure if my daughter, anything happens, you can hear more noise. Should not go that way. So this question of this anger and this level where we are, let's maintain it, but please make it issues for women, issues, not faces and names. I want to make that call. And for me, I do have my barometer, the 6 young women that were shot in the house in Philip, in Marcus Garvey house, and much, much less noise happened. I'm sure it's because not too many of us knew about them. But they remain women, by the way. Young, 18 and 25. So this question of women, it's, I did say, fortunately or unfortunately, in my house here, I stay with the second degree 21-year-old daughter of mine at UCT. She would say to me, "Dad, I'm scared. I'm scared because we women, especially young, were hurt by our fathers. We're beginning not to be sure whether we're safe on the street or in the house. So if we go to the campuses, boys, pray on us. If you visit your aunties and uncles, you are not sure what uncles are going to do on you." Now, I was asking myself, is this all the work of the police? To look girls against uncles, to look girls against fathers. So the question is broad, Honorable Chair. The question, colleagues, is broad. To look girls against their classmates at schools. I went to Ongoye last year where this young girl was stabbed, was bloody in the room. Ongoye was sitting there with a boyfriend all the time. The difference, I found a lot of intsangu. You could see that there was a lot of smoking of dach and all that. Well, Constitutional Court has said we can smoke it now. But I'm very scared of the results of smoking of the dach. But what would police do when you are in the bedroom with your girlfriend and your boyfriend? What will happen? Police will really have to peep the ninzan. So I'm just wanting to broaden the understanding of the scourge we're facing. Maybe narrowing to the police, I don't think that we are where we're supposed to be as a South African dealing with this matter. The question of race, the register, the commissioner is here. There are a few things that we just need to look. The behavior, fortunately we discussed yesterday, we have agreed to call the South African Police Male March. Yeah, we have agreed yesterday. When? Next week. We're calling the South African male, and we want the women activists to come and address them. What do you expect from the male police as you enter the police station? I have spoken to some of them, and I've asked them to make sense rather than come and box the police and all that. But put the way that the police officer will remember that as I see you coming to the police station, what do I have to expect? Yes, we are trained in the college, but the experience of the ground happenings is the best one. So we're trying to motivate. I saw one activist at JSC march over the weekend. I don't think that we can kill everything that is an effort. For instance, she was arguing to say it won't help to revisit the cases that were there. It's too late. I think it will help to find out why and how these cases were closed and all that, and some of them revisiting them and all that kind of thing. She was complaining to say, we're making the statement that will train more women to deal with. I think that's correct. I'm a man. I just imagine when a woman comes to report to me how she was graphically raped. It does have a psychological kind of effect. I think if you train more women, not that you are womanizing this issue, but you are creating some better conditions, and that is taken care of. Because if the first stop of report has not taken you on board, is a problem for the case going forward. So at times, a poor victim person needs to go graphic for the case to be able to deal with it at the later stage. So going graphic, man has just raped you an hour earlier, you come to go graphic to me, it can't. You end up saying, you know what, I'm leaving this thing, I'm getting out. So whatever we can do to make life easier for women taking these matters forward, let it be. Chairperson, it's unfortunate I won't go. I was telling one, I won't go all the way. I was telling one person that I've got, my father died at the age of 44. I was quite young when he died. I was telling one colleague of mine that we work with what stuck on me from my father. Said two things. To say, you don't have to be physically and socially a father. Your children must claim the fatherhood from you. You must work for it, that you are a father. You don't just claim because I gave birth to you and all, then I'm your father. I must still work for it. That's the first point. Second point, he said, if things are tough with you, you can't handle a woman. The best thing you can do is to turn and walk away forever if it needs to be, but never put your hand on a woman. Never, ever. Now, I don't know how many, and I don't know how many fathers, and where are they? Are they there? Are they saying these things? One thing that we'll have to work hard on it, on this question of women issues, is a family component. It's a family component. Maybe this picking bees of everybody coming together will be really necessary. The family component, because I did raise a point initially. I don't know if Honorable Member Whitefield did not believe me when I say, how do I call on the police for a 12-year-old that is raping or is murdering the other 12-year-old? Why don't I call to the parents? So these are the things as this body will have to work going towards it. It's a broad issue of I don't know where it came from and all that, but it's bad, Chairperson. The abuse of women is bad, and it's just a daily occurrence. We just rise a mountain one time because Bheki Cele daughter something happened, and then go back down to the valley. Let's stay to the mountain on this matter, no matter who dies. We as a South African police, we do want to listen and go forward on dealing with this matter. I have this unit called FCS. I don't know if they have made the presentation here. This is not yet. Chairperson, they're doing a beautiful job. With all the sea of trouble and the problems we have, they are doing the beautiful, beautiful job. Maybe given the opportunity, because it's a topical issue at the present moment, the women's issues, to bring them and just listen to them, telling us what are they doing. You get there and you do get some form of satisfaction that police, there are things. Enough, no, but good, yes. So I would make that advice. So let me go take a first question of quarterly, Mr. Honorable Member. We are discussing, it's not necessarily quarterly, we are discussing the change and frequency of reporting this. For instance, as you report now, it will be 6 months down the line. How much does it help you? How much has the pattern changed since then? So we are discussing on frequency. It could not be quarterly, but there are discussions going on that. SAPS respond to crime analysis. Yes, we do respond to crime analysis. We work around what is happening. What has been very prominent on this one is that people die over weekends and around alcohol. So your deployment must talk to that. If it has not been talking to that, it will have to talk to that. Maybe those that understand that can see two police there sitting there, so they would understand. Those two police, what do you mean by deployment and dealing with? Well, I'm not talking about the soldier behind them. So that will understand this language. And Chair, we have made a commitment and we're doing it. We will be working on our advisory services. There is nobody that owns wisdom here. So you will open your ear and listen to people talking, and I heard people talking about the relevant deployment. Yes, let's talk about those things. What are your suggestions to work on these matters? Firearms, I'm sure they will give exact of these. But most of illegal firearms in South Africa are legal firearms. Most of illegal firearms are legal firearms in South Africa. They come out of the shop being legal, whether are for state agencies, the police, whether are for private security companies, or whether are for individual South Africans, whether are for shops. There is this, I think I did say it last time, in PE, was it in PE, where the owner of the firearm shop fell sick, went to hospital, and the domestic worker sold the firearms, 187 of them. Sold them. By the time this guy came from hospital, the business was shut because all firearms were sold. So it goes back to the law. What does the law say about those? If I fell sick, go to hospital, do I shut the business, or my domestic worker continues with the business and all that? Did she sell them to friends and all that? And most of those firearms, unfortunately, they are in this province. This happened in PE, but they are here in this province, some of those. So it's a question of strengthening. I want to make separation between the controlled firearms bill that is on the cards and the amnesty request. The amnesty request, that was, I'm told it was sent back. I don't know, Chair, how it happened. I looked at my records. That document was tabled on the 21st of August with the Speaker and the Chair. It's recorded. So it was tabled there. So I don't know why the committee would have felt then the time was short, because it came now in September, but it was tabled with the Speaker and the Chair by the department on the 21st of August. So if that could be checked, but definitely on this time, I would not say from the side of the department. I think we were requesting the 1st of October, we tabled 21st of August. So if you can just look at that. Why the amnesty? Because we say those people that they feel their guns, they don't need them anymore, they bring them back. But we do check those guns. Whatever gun you bring back, we check it. Ballistic, if you are not just throwing it away. You have used it and then you're trying to throw it away. We check it, and then if your gun has been used somewhere, we'll have to explain that. Where was your gun used? But we believe that we can go hard thereafter, after you've given South African opportunities to bring the guns, especially illegal firearms. Especially illegal firearms, that would love them to be brought. But unfortunately, most guns that come back still remain the legal firearms. We're expecting more people to deal with illegal firearms. We need to look at other surveys. Somebody raised the question of other surveys to compare. As the Honorable Groenewald have said, that they're beginning to compare. There is less differences. That will help us to work with everybody on these matters. Well, this story of statistics, if you look statistics 2009, 2010 up to this point, we still have to unpack what happened. We still have to unpack what happened. If you look 2008 and 9, we had 18,000 murders, Honorable Groenewald. 2010, we had 16. We jumped 17. The trend of dealing with criminal states is that we go 1,000 every financial year. It started in 94, if I'm not mistaken, at 31,000. So it will be 30, 29, 28. So until we broke the trend, 29, 2010, move straight to 16. And we stayed a little bit there from 16, 2011, 2012, 2010, 11, 12. We stayed at 15,000. 2012 up, we took off like a Concorde. Just took off. Now we are worse than 10 years on the other side. So somebody will have to unpack that. Maybe we'll get time to unpack what do we think, what happened. And we are trying to correct that. One thing that the Honorable KB also spoke about is the visibility of the South African police. Are we there where we're supposed to be and all? But we're working on those things. But we have agreed we can't stay where things are and don't reverse them. Maybe it goes back to the Honorable member, the former member of the South African Police, Mr. Terreblatch, to say what has happened from dropping the ball until now. If most analysis, they say the crime overall last 10 years is going down. It's a matter that is resisting. Even the matter had gone down some other time. By the way, I'm not going to sit here and blow our trumpet. We have stagnated the matter. That increased last financial year 1,320, and we halved that 1,320 by 686. So if we take what we did to move 1,320 to 680, we take that and enhance that, we will go to the green again. So we need to just do that thing, focus, and do things as we have done them to other things, your cash arrest, your house robbery, and all that is doable. It's a concentration and working together on those matters. So it goes to the resources. No ways, Honorable Man, I can say resources are enough. No ways I can contradict the police that are enough. What I can say, you will have to use what you have if you don't have an extra. You'll have to live within those means, not because you want it. If the means you have is to live in the township, but you'd love to go to the suburbs. But there where we are in the township when it comes to finances. We would love to move to the suburbs. But we agree that any form of cut of budget will affect the performance of the police. You also raised the issue of the relationship between the let me put the cluster. I'm not going to come here and bash other elements of the cluster. We are working, is not working at yet where we're supposed to be. So unfortunately for the police are very exposed because they are the cold face of the population. Yesterday, Commissioner, I signed the document where 200 police is recommended that they should be charged. You are putting them before the NPA, 200 of them, investigated by ourselves, the Anti-Corruption Unit, and the IPID. I don't think there is other department that is checking itself like that to recommend that their own must be put before the NPA to charge them, put them in prison. So it's a problem that we are trying to work on it. So going with the segments of all the lines, I wonder what do we do with the prosecutors that would be naughty like the police. I don't know how do we last month we arrested 4 magistrates in South Africa. Remember, 4. We arrested 4 magistrates, and nobody talks about them much before they are arrested. So those are the things that we need to look at the whole chain going forward. Maybe, Chair, will be a second. So maybe if we can have a joint cluster kind of hearing one day, joint committees and the whole cluster, and come we explain ourselves from the police to the correctional service. So have that kind of thing. Correctional service, we arrested one notorious guy called Mashwabana in Pretoria, Umbat. He was given 193 years. It's 10 years. I hear some hisses that he might get a parole. The guy is 193 years, 10 years, somebody speaks about the parole. So those are the things that frustrate police. It does frustrate police. And as he comes out, he does the same thing because he knows that he's not going to be in prison. 4 pages of matter. Where have you had that? You go to KZN, you find 4 pages of matter. You matter, you get bail, you matter, you get bail, you matter, you get bail. So, and the police, they ask the question, when next do we go? So I would recommend that maybe the committees become joints and the cluster comes here to explain ourselves. It's not for me to come here and talk about my sister departments. So, but if all of us will come here, that will be the best. Will be the best for us. I have requested to find out why more police are killed off duty. We are worried about that. Why the police are killed off duty? It's 48, 20, 28, 27. So that is a worrying trend. But I must say, Chairperson, there are police that we are very proud of, that people will think that they died off duty when they've put themselves on duty. We have several of those police. Warrant Officer Ngobo in Maritzburg is sleeping in the middle of the night. He hears a crying voice of a woman, takes his gun, goes out to check. He never came back. So there are such officers that we honor them for keeping their job wherever they are. But we need to look at this. Poisa, I don't know why we must have a problem with alcohol outlets. Why should we the police? That question must be asked from economic development, not from us. Why do you give licenses that closes at 4 in the morning? And you expect the police to work on that. You go there at 3 o'clock when the community is complaining, they throw the license in your face. The license said you close at 4. So why the latest maybe is I don't know when. I according to me, they should not be opening these shippings. Maybe it's because I suffer from not drinking alcohol. So, but for me, that would be the best. It does need a high level of regulation. We went to Kukule, we came there at about 25 to 3, and everybody ran away. The thing was due to close at 2, and there were a lot of under 18s. You could see that all these are under. The thing is licensed. And I can assure you one matter is that no under 18s should be found there. But it's them that were more than anybody there. Is legal requirement that you can't go with a gun or any form of knife. But people are shot within the precincts and all that. So I think economic especially, what is this thing that gives these licenses? Liquor boards. I hear saying that we must call them and all that. I think they've got relevant departments to give them straight laws that you shall not do this. You shall not do this. So that we all work together on keeping the law. But one thing about shippings, some of them, they sell stuff that they're not supposed to sell that stuff. Honorable Bachos, it's the second time you raise this question. Your question is more subtle than the Western Cape of the provincial policing. Western Cape will say provincial policy. I hear you asking the same question. Let me tell the story of the national policing. Two weeks ago, we busted a 200 million factory in Mpumalanga, the underground factory of drugs, man-drugs. They had 2 machines, same like those we busted in Hatting, in a farm that was bought, and they converted the farm to drug factory instead of planting tomatoes. So they had 2 machines. One machine produces 16 man-drug tablets in 2 seconds. 2 seconds, they produce 16 man-drugs machines. They've got 2 of those machines. We busted them in Mpumalanga. The raw material was in Soweto, in Diepkloof. The truck to fetch was from here. The order was meant for Cape Flats. It's in Mpumalanga, it's Soweto, it's here. So if you provincialize your police, you would not be able to deal with those things. You would not be able to deal, you will be giving extra edge on your criminals who do not need passports, who do not need borders, who do not need Auditor General, who do not need any other way. So you will break down your overarching dealing with the crime, especially organized crime in the Republic of South Africa. The guy that was given 207 years last week in Westbury originates from here. Has been running gangsters here, so but he has moved to run them in Westbury. We gave him 207 years last week. So if he leaves your province, you would not be able to work on the overarching. But also, it will break, fortunately, as I'm closing, Chairperson, we have a big conference going on of the Interpol, started yesterday here. I was very jealous, but we'll be arranging for the cabinet to hear, but I was very jealous that the members can hear what is a world of drugs. I didn't know that there are drug dealers that own submarines. Yeah. They own submarines to cross the seas, high seas, crossing the drugs. And there are wars on the high waters that are fought there, blocking these things. Last week, the information is that, Honorable Groenewald, there are Americans that their prescription is done in South Africa because they can't get those medication in America, so they is ordered online. and give you the wrong drugs in America and vice versa. So that's how sophisticated these syndicates are. But the scary one, I was with the MEC Limpompo, he took the notes yesterday. There is this thing that if you are removing either elephant or what is this thing they steal a lot? Rhino. Yeah, this thing that you shoot so that you put it in the truck. I hope it doesn't find its way. They are using that thing in one country now to mix it with mandrax, to mix it with the cocaine. And we're told that all kids that use the thing, they never wake up the next morning. Anyway, how are you going to wake up when you eat something that kills the elephant? How are you going to wake up? And those are the things that might find their way down to South Africa. We'll have kids that will sleep and never wake up the next morning. That is international. Tells you that we should be part of international and national. Last week, colleagues, in PE, here he is. We found these containers. We found containers. One, it had 85 kilograms of cocaine in box form. Yeah, 2 of them were meant for Western Cape, 2 were meant for Durban. Yeah, so coming with the legal banana cargo. You think you are importing banana, but you are importing death of our kids. And so that's why we need to stay international, need to stay national. Yes, we work with all provinces, especially when you go to provinces. I want to call all people that come from provinces to work with the local government and provincial government to help us on what we call environmental design. That thing, you see, if you look at the matter rates, environmental design's got a lot of to do. The matter that is happening in Cape Town does not happen in Constantia. Does not happen in Hout Bay. It happens in Khayelitsha, Sqalo, and all that. In KZN, it's not Durban North that leads in matter, or Mhlanga, or Palito. It's Nanda, which has similar structure with Western Cape. Gauteng is your deep north that they lead on these things. So, which means if one day, Honorable Terepash, we take the buses and we send them to Khayelitsha and the train, and we pack everybody there, and we say, from today, leave everything here. You will find everything in Constantia. And we take them in the buses, we offload in Constantia. I can assure you, they won't kill one another the next morning. They'll wake up, look at the greenery, go to the swimming pool, and enjoy their kitchen and all that. And we take them from Constantia to Khayelitsha. I'm telling you, they'll behave like people in Khayelitsha. So this thing of finishing crime, having not improved conditions, is not going to happen. It's not. All of us, I agree with you, we must put the shoulder on the life of the people where they live, so that they live like human beings and they behave like human beings. But as the South African police, we shall do our work within the constraints of the product government doing their work. So I want to call on education, especially the basic education. You can't go to the meeting at Landover, Lavender Hill, at 11 on Tuesday. You'll find more kids at the meeting than parents. More kids at 11. And those kids, the mother would say, this is a gangster that is killed. The mother would say, hey, this man was a good man. And you ask why? No, he bought my son a Nike. So he bought my son a Nike. So you realize that gangsters have a bigger claw on the community than our social development, than our basic education and all. Because they are there at 11. They are good pool for recruitment of gangsters. That's why at 9 they're buying them turkeys. So, and police are not going to arrest you for buying turkeys. And when the mother said this was a good man, meaning a known gangster. So, the last call I'm making, Chairperson, the crime issue must go beyond the police, must go beyond the cluster. I'm glad that the cabinet has taken the decision to make crime a government issue. That's an approach now from the cabinet. That is a government issue. Maybe it's a much joint issue. As President is calling the joint, committees must also have their joint on dealing with the crime matters. What do you do at your level so that the crime can go down? I'll miss out. I'll miss out as there are many other things, but they'll follow so that we can run and see the modus of the criminals killing the police. These police, honorable member, were killed in the Shibin when they were trying to respond to the crime that was committed in the Shibin. They were not drinking, they were responding, they were called, and he was shot and killed there. And these Shibins, and we are attacked when we close them down to our insensitive. We don't care about the economic situation and all that. Community, some of them attack us. And I can assure you, ship-ins are centers of death that will have to really work hard to make sure that our people are safe out of it. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for the generous allocation of your time. I know we've delayed you, but thank you for responding to us in such a detailed manner. I apologize to Honorable Whitfield. We've given you all various versions of your surnames. I apologize for that today. Don't worry, Honorable Minister, I also had some versions, so we apologize. But to the honourable members, I think we can really thank the Minister for giving us such a detailed response and wish him well in his endeavours. Could I allow a minute or two for a comfort break and allow the Minister to leave? We will reconvene in 10 minutes' time. Thank you.
approach would be I will be taking some of the strategic questions, adding to what the minister have already paved the way. Then I will afford the platform after that, with your permission, to the DNCs and the national head of Hawks. They were little specific to speak to. Then we are going to request the committee to afford a platform to the provincial commissioner, because what is important is that the picture that we are talking to is no longer the same at their level. So it will be important that they be given the opportunity just to talk to it. Not all of them would be speaking, but maybe one of them can speak on their behalf. So that's the approach we're going to be following. Chair, maybe adding from the minister and looking at some of the questions and comments by the honorable members, I wanted maybe to start with a request, and also from a commendation's point of view, commending the committee for the initiative, especially of getting everyone together. I think at the present moment, we all aware that we're trying to find a security solution to what we call a societal problem. I think the ratio balance is higher on the security side and less on the societal response. And I always cite the example of the caption in Chapter 12 of the National Development Plan that says the collapse of the National Crime Prevention Strategy led to SAPS being an all-purpose agency with an overstretched mandate impossible to fulfill. What we are missing now is a national crime prevention framework in the country. And that national crime prevention framework is a platform that gives us all the opportunity to address both the root causes as well as the modus operandi and the symptoms that lead to crime, which at the present moment, it's a platform we are missing. And for us to have this platform, I think that's where we require a national summit, a national crime summit. Then it talks to the suggestions by honorable members. But me, I'm going to request 4 things that goes with this. The first one, it was again raised by honorable members in our first appearance, that we need an inter-cluster engagement or coordination. One of the reasons is that if we go inter-cluster, the National Crime Prevention Framework affects all clusters. It's all departments across government, but these departments, they belong to different clusters. Now, because it is our cluster that's taking the initiative, if our cluster could go on inter-cluster engagement, so that by the time we get to such a summit, then all departments are party to the summit and maybe all clusters. So that is my request, if that process could be undertaken by the cluster. The second one that we need, or that we don't have, is a Jcps cluster framework. But this Jcps cluster framework at the present moment is in a process of design. From my few appearances in the media about the states, after one of them I was phoned by DPME, the commissioners there, they actually indicated they've got a workshop on the 16th and 17th, and they want to deal with the JCPS cluster framework. So they asked me to come and do a presentation there. So my suggestion is then that we also need a JCPS cluster framework that can relate to the National Crime Prevention Framework. Currently, the minister has indicated we are in an international drug conference coordinated by Interpol. One of the aspects that we've already raised with the drug conference, which is, I think, is an input they're buying into. The approach to drugs now follows a transnational organized crime approach. But what we're missing is a transnational crime prevention framework. And we've pointed that out to them. We also need it as a country to interact with other countries, because the modus operandi that the minister spoke to, where he says something used for elephants is now being used in another country, is a new modus operandi. And believe me, it's on its way to South Africa. Maybe it's already in the air, will land soon. So one of the gaps which Interpol has also noted is the absence of an international modus operandi analysis center, which they are buying from us. But we then need to know that there's new modus operandi. And modus operandi, the way to fight it is to remove the opportunities and do target hardening. And then it doesn't find its way. And one of the simplest examples that we've always put forward, we said, take a young person out of reach. No criminal operation is going to work, because that's their most precious resource. So these are the interventions that we request. If the cluster take a step forward in these issues, I think we may end up with these frameworks, and then soon. And once these frameworks are in place, the issue of crime will never then be a security issue only. And it is less expensive for policing if the root causes are removed. Presently, policing is very expensive. And I can give you one example. We've got Operation Thunder in the Western Cape. It's a stabilization intervention. From last year up to now, we've already spent 10 million. No, it's 90 million. So that's how expensive the intervention is. It's because we're financing both the root cause and as well as the hardcore policing. And the root cause part is not our responsibility. One thing that we wanted the committee to note is that the environmental design is gradually deteriorating. Every day it is deteriorating. And the more it deteriorates, is the more it poses danger to policing, and is the more crime gets out of control, because we can't change it. And somewhere we're reaching a stage where it must change. The second one, which we also want to be noted strongly, the family structure in the society is diminishing. And I'm sure it's the last, it's actually our last line of defense in society. If the family structures collapse completely, we will only give birth to children and they walk in the field like animals. And that's where we're going. So if we could all work together to protect the family structure from further deterioration, I think we can save society. And lastly, on the societal issues, I think we're already sitting with injured human and spiritual values. and because they are injured, they are reaching a stage of reaching an irreparable stage. And once we can no longer repair our values, you must imagine what's going to happen. And hence, we then need these interventions where we can all work together and mobilize each other and one another. Then, Chair, I wanted then to talk briefly about the resources and the numbers. And as we speak about the resources and the numbers, we don't want to make it a problem of the committee, but we want the committee to take note. And we're not raising challenges and folding our hands. We're not throwing them to anyone. We're also putting interventions to address them. But I wanted to give you this picture. In terms of the latest feasibility study of SAPS, the shortage at police station to address visibility is 62,000. Over and above the 62,000, DPCI is functioning with a 50% less structure. They deteriorated from 5,000 to 2,500 and something now. But their current shortage to respond to crime now is 2,800. So with this shortage, they can never reclaim their position and being an elite investigation organization. Then the cash of the organization presently is 1.6 million. And that 1.6 million, if you take it at 60 dockets per investigator, it takes you to a shortage of 8,500 just to do normal investigation. And if you add all these figures, they give you some, it's 7,330 something. But then we said this shortage is a reality. We do not expect government to respond and address it at once. The first step, we said, the president has pronounced on the 7,000 per year. But what we have now at the colleges is 5,000, so they are coming out in December. So they'll be getting to the field. They'll be distributed. I've just signed off now the advertisement for the 7,000 for next year. So I'm sure it will be on advert within the 2 weeks. So that's, we said, let's get to action. I've issued an instruction for maximum reservist call-up in order to serve as a force multiplier. But I also wanted to explain it concept-wise. In the traditional policing concept that we've recently introduced, mobilizing the traditional leaders and kings across the country in terms of that concept, using all the houses in the country, including the National House. We've also initiated a recruitment drive where we also intend to absorb all the traditional policing capacity which is there, whether it's in Dunas or whatever, using the reservist concept and as well as the community in blue. We're going to train all of them. Those who don't make it for reservist, we keep them in the community in blue in order to enhance visibility. The same applies to farmers, the farming community. We're going to apply the same concept. Then realizing then again that we have to wait for the 7,000 for a year to get matured, we then decided, and realizing the embargo on the compensation budget, we decided to contract the services of former members, especially in the investigation department. We we've got one example. I think we've got a number of senior officers in the crime detection that are leaving. But some of them are former teachers, others are advocates, others are graduates. And we're going to contract them. We've started a project. And we want to move the majority of them to the Detective Academy. I think we're now investing in the Detective Academy that should start kicking off officially in the coming financial year. But we're also going to contract their services to assist us with complex dockets and complex investigations. And that will be across the spectrum. Then we are looking at, we've opened re-enlistment to all those members who left the service while they were still able to. So that's why we say we don't want to make it either the committee's problem or government's problem. We want to address it and then coming up with initiatives. And if we contract people, we're moving away from compensation budget to goods and services, because that's what is a challenge at the present moment. But the reason why we're bringing this to the attention of the committee, we want you to have an understanding. I'm sure you might listen to the provincial commissioners when they speak. One of the simplest questions is the fact that there's information that comes out of the states and from intelligence that crime is taking place over weekends. And there are times that are outlined. And the question is the deployment. But I want to give you the reality. Because of the shortage of numbers, they deploy to all the hotspots. Over and above that, they are left with open areas because the numbers can't cover that. And criminals are aware of that. They know which areas to exploit. And they are aware of the growing spatial development. And therefore, we're trying to increase the numbers so that we address that. Then, Chair, this is talking to the basic policing model. The three-dimensional approach of the basic policing model talk to strategic policing, where police work together with all other disciplines. Then innovative policing, we're looking at your root cause analysis. What I would like to indicate is that the root cause analysis capacity in government now has not yet matured. But what we've done, we've tasked our modus operandi analysis center to work together with states and intelligence to produce root cause analysis reports. And in future, I would suggest that we table one root cause analysis report to the committee so that you can see which are the crimes that are based on root causes and how does criminals exploit root causes to invent new modus operandi. And that would be the case. Then I wanted to respond on gender-based violence. There was a question, what's our response? We've reviewed the anti-rape strategy. We have now introduced a sexual and gender-based violence strategy. And in terms of that particular strategy, what's on there for now is the upgrading of FCS. I think the minister has spoken about FCS. And I also want to add the emphasis. I think it's one of the units that make us proud nationally. But their capacity is limited. It's again affected by the numbers. So first thing under this strategy is the upgrading of that particular capacity. Two, we have activated the cold case strategy, and now we're developing the cold case capacity within FCS. So there's a joint exercise between us and NPA on the cold case analysis, and one of our senior generals here in the detectives, is working with the NPA team. They've already finalized the cold case report. They're going to table it. And I'm going to be signing off the work study. The specialized units we intend to upgrade, it's FCS and stock theft unit, so that we are able to respond to the two. Then we are looking at activating one of the already approved out of the six additional units that we're bringing in, and that is the murder and robbery unit. At the present moment, we all working on that. Now, in terms of the gender-based violence strategy, firstly, we share it with NPA and Justice. We're making it a cluster strategy. And we are closing all the current loopholes so that we are able to address the problem. Then there's other little issues that maybe impact negatively in the current. In the Western Cape, we call for a national consultative forum. This is a committee of all the provincial board chairpersons in the country for CPF. They have an intervention in the Western Cape to address the community policing dynamics which are there. And we've been together with them in the summit. Soon, the community policing strategy of the Western Cape will be formally launched. And I wanted to address upfront the conflict between Neighborhood Watch and CPF. It's not two structures in conflict. The one structure is the child of the other. And the child will not be in conflict with the parent. And that's what the strategy is addressing. Neighborhood watches are implemented or executed under the banner of community policing. And that's what the National Consultative Forum is addressing as we're speaking. Domestic violence is a priority at the present moment. One of the reasons why we want a national framework, a national crime prevention framework, is also to have a multidisciplinary performance management system so that we can all measure ourselves in terms of one framework. And if I have to address root causes, it must be part and parcel of my performance, whether those root causes were addressed. If we have to address stabilization, which is the front line of the police, we must also be measured in terms of those particular stabilizations. On the provincial merits, I wanted then to briefly say we have tasked intelligence, stats, and the Modis Center to come up with hotspots and deal with the ranking of hotspots. So there's going to be national hotspots, provincial hotspots, and local hotspots. And each province, the hotspot that is in each province will be subject or determined by the nature of modus operandi applied in that particular province. And that province must then respond to the crime that's generated by that particular modus operandi and also respond to the modus operandi in question. So they will never be the same. That uniqueness will be depicted by the provincial commissioner's action plan. And by the way, each province then has got an action plan to respond to the crime stats. So that's the central principle. But the action plans are not the same because they are designed according to what they are responding to, and which is a challenge of that particular province. In the rural environment, we're doing what we call, or we're guided by the deliverable, the development of rural policing infrastructure. And under the development of rural policing infrastructure, The first thing we're doing now is the establishment of community-based mounted units. I'm sure they were showcased in the Eastern Cape yesterday when the president was there, because in that OR Tambo district, part and parcel of the policing plan, the district policing plan, include the traditional resources that has been generated from the communities. I think it's service centers at the crawls, and then is mounted units, which include horses that has been donated by the community. The same applies to the rural environment. That's part and parcel of the rural policing infrastructure that we're dealing with there. And then my last one is on the victim survey. When we signed off the stats with the Stats SA, we have agreed that since stats are now going to be ratified by Stats SA, each time stats are released, they will be released together with the victim survey, because it is also conducted by them. And within the National Crime Prevention Framework, our center proposal is the Fusion Center. And in the Fusion Center, one of the most important key structures is the Integrated Research Center, where we're going to do a research collection, look at all the findings of researches which has been conducted about policing, and see whether could we have responded to them. And then we link that also to the modus operandi center, which would then be looking at modus analysis and research, so that we produce new interventions. Then we link modus operandi analysis center to training and development, because what criminals do, they also analyze our training standards and our competencies. Then they will just lift up a new modus operandi beyond your training competencies. So no matter how hard the police can work, the modus operandi will continue to be executed. Now, when the new modus operandi comes, we now have linked it to the training and development research, so that we do continuous research on new curriculums, and we then become a step ahead of them. Chair, with your permission, I can hand over to the Deputy National Commissioners for their little comments, and then we can afford the Provincial Commissioners. Thank you.
Before I grant permission, National Commissioner, allow me to thank you. But National Commissioner, one day you were sitting in this very same meeting venue, and the meeting ended very abruptly. And everybody was wondering, but what is happening with the chairperson? But you agreed to leave that day and come back with action plans. I hope that members realize that when we called for action plans, it was particularly because our country and communities are tired of talk shops. Our communities want a definite program of action. And National Commissioner, these honorable members have been promised an action plan. So we call on you to have all your provinces developing. You said they already have these action plans. So we call on all your provinces to consolidate that action plan. And if it means that we need a session where all the provincial commissioners are present and present their action plans, we humbly request you to do so. Because these crime statistics are pointing to areas in provinces which we want clarity on. And it's not because we are behaving as if we are in the NCOP. But members have the right to know what is happening in a specific province. We are going to be We have already done an oversight visit in the Western Cape. We're going, our next oversight visit is in Gauteng. I also urge members to recognize that we serve the country. We have done oversight visits in the Western Cape. We are now moving to Gauteng. We'll also discuss our program later today, because there's many requests from members for us to visit police stations. What we could request, or maybe we could agree, that with the constituency period, which starts at the end of this week, members will visit police stations as we agreed. Whether it is unannounced or whether it is prearranged, we will be visiting police stations. So I humbly ask that, remember we said we will have, you sent us the numbers, thank you very much. But that when members get to police stations, they actually do see the station commander, and I think members, you can now accept, and we can really understand the need for these action plans. The public's tired of talk shows. Thank you. Honorable General?
No, Chair, thank you. I think the direction is taken. I just wanted to propose options which the committee could explore. One, I think there could be what you can call national concern provinces, because I don't think the committee can afford all 9 provinces presenting their action plans in one day. Now, what we can suggest, the committee may decide, as you do your own analysis, to say, can we have these 3 provinces because they are the nationally concerned provinces? I'm making, for example. Then you can call us with those 3 provinces. We deal with those action plans. But then 2, as the oversight meetings are continuing, if the committee have got time, the committee may also be interested to listen to the provincial action plan of that province, where you're dealing with oversight. My advice is, it may not help the committee much to look at a station action plan before you look at the provincial action plan, because part and parcel of holding the station accountable is to have had an access to the provincial plan. So during those oversight visits, I think that can happen. But under normal circumstances also, if honorable members do an oversight, whether it's on individual basis, the plans that are not very operational, we can share them with the honorable members, so that then they have. But these are my proposal. But we are ready. All the 9 provinces, they do have their action plans. Apart from that, there's divisional commissioners. They also have action plans. So the national action plan is captured in the AOP, which is the annual operational plan. And that annual operational plan is also available, so that can be presented. Thank you, Chair.
You may allow your team to continue, National Commissioner.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Honorable Chair and honorable members. Good afternoon. I am going to respond to the question or concern that was raised by Memo Fukengi, honorable member, with regard to branding of the police vehicles. The branding of the police vehicles is an ongoing process. We currently have 4,161 total number of vehicles in the whole country that are in a process of being branded. I can provide the breakdown per province, which we anticipate that the process will be finalized towards the end of November. And as and when we brand them, obviously we are also anticipating new deliveries
that are going to be delivered, they will also form the same process of going through the branding process. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. A very good afternoon, members, honorable members. I will be responding to the input towards ensuring that we deploy social workers and psychologists at the police stations for purposes of ensuring that members are supported. We currently have a total of 620 employee and health wellness officials within the South African Police Service. That number consists of chaplains or spiritual welfare officials, a total of 217, social workers, 201, psychologists, 135. We also have officials that are attached to quality of work life. For example, those are occupational therapists. With this little number that I have given, it does not necessarily mean that we do not ensure that the members are taken care of in terms of counseling. We have a psychosocial network of doctors, which is in partnership with our POLMET, which is our medical aid services, where members who are not or who are not comfortable to be serviced internally, they get an opportunity to consult with external professionals that are available. In terms of our national instructions, we make it mandatory. We made it mandatory for members that are attached to the high risk unit to ensure that in a quarter they have to go for counseling whether they like it or not, but also on a daily basis as and when members are exposed to traumatic incidents, you have a situation where within police stations you'll have those that are trained to give first responder counseling. But further than that, within a period of 48 hours, members are compelled to go for a debriefing. However, you might still find some that are a bit hesitant to do that. Honorable Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members. I think Honorable Treblanche spoke about the issue of people that have been arrested. Are they not supposed to be profiled? Thus, the linkages as well. Indeed, Honorable Treblanche, that's what should happen. Because if you arrest a person, first of all, you have to take your elimination fingerprints and make sure that this person has been profiled and do the linkages, because you might find that this person is involved in more than 10 or 20 cases. That's how we detect our serial rapists and serial killers. And also that's why provinces have to share information as well. So I totally agree. That's what should be happening, and at the rate at which it's happening, it's not satisfying, but I think we need to make sure that in our detection plan, that indeed that takes place. The issue, Honorable Sheikh, the issue of the cooperation between the NPA in particular, and to a larger extent the judiciary. There are meetings that are taking place. At your national level, these types of meetings are being chaired by Chief Justice, and we are participating in those meetings. That's where we call them National Enhanced Efficiency Committees. That's where we discuss various things in those kind of meetings. The types of cases that we're dealing with, and also the types of cooperation that we're having together through the NPA with the judiciary. But also the special meetings that we are having as provinces and even at national from time to time, where we are discussing the issue, your very technical way, the way in which you are doing your investigation. For example, in this meeting with the NPA, we're discussing the preparatory kind of process that needs to be put into place before you can place a docket before court. The garnering of the information, what type of reports, how long are the reports outstanding, why cases are withdrawn in court before because of the outstanding reports. So these meetings ought to be taking place, and I think we are trying our level best, Honorable Sheikh, to make sure that these meetings do take place, because if these meetings are not taking place, the prosecutors are not going to be able also to be very confident in presenting their cases in court. So we are trying our level best at all levels, national, provincial, to make sure that we have this kind of meetings. There was also a concern or a comment around the issue of if a person commits murder and there was I think it's Honorable Majosi, and this person commits a murder and there was a protection order against the suspect. Yes, indeed, when you arrest this person, I think, like I said, you must do the profiling, and also the register will indicate as to whether this person, there was a protection order against this person. And that will assist us to make sure that we prepare ourselves to go and oppose bail. And also, if it does happen, because at the end of the day, ultimately, the presiding officer will decide as to whether a person should get bail. But if he does get bail, whilst he having one or two protection order, then it means the conditions should be very stiff. But we are trying our levels, particularly because of the outcry in the country, the scourge in the country. We are preparing ourselves. We are making sure that our members are well trained to be able to send in the witness box and convince the presiding officer that you cannot give this person a bail. So I think the issue of the protection order should be bring forth to make sure that it helps the investigating officer to present his or her case very well in court, so that this person should not get bail. The Honorable Mapat, yeah, intelligence-driven investigations. I think that is a cliche that as the detectives in the country, we should not only be talking about, but it should be something that we are living. There are certain cases that indeed you cannot do without having intelligence at the center. For example, it will be your major investigations where we are having more than after you have done your analysis, and then you realize that this case, in the case management meetings, this case, it should be a major investigation. You have to deploy an intelligence person, so 2 or 3, to assist in guiding the investigation. Also, we've got what you call PGI, the prosecutorial guided investigations. So the 2 elements are very key in directing your major investigation as well as project-driven investigations. Those are your more kind of very difficult cases, but intelligence is at the center of everything. Like intelligence is at the center of predictive policing. It is also for crime detection purposes as well. So indeed, we need to do better in that regard. That's why even when we are looking for a person, first of all, the first person that should be informed, or the first capacity should be deployed, is crime intelligence. I totally agree, Honorable. Somebody spoke about the issue of the forensic psychologist. Yes, indeed, there are certain cases that are so difficult or very complex that needs forensic psychologists, though we are not having enough in the country. But I think that's the mode and the way in which things should be done. But I think we'll be looking into that, because in our crime detection conferences, these are some of the things that we are talking about. conviction on cases where children are involved. It's a scourge in the country. I think that's where the FCS, like the men have said, and the National Commissioner, the division, the detectives, there's a special unit that seeks to deal with that issue, though we are not having enough people, but I think we can do better in that regard. The vetting by crime intelligence of the CPFs, yes, indeed, that should something that we should look at, because some of these people that are coming with ulterior motives in this space, Memo Fuking, I totally agree that whoever comes into the space where the police are operating, that person should be vetted. So there are people that are coming with the ulterior motives, I agree, and we should not be missing on that one. Though the crime intelligence, the capacity to vet is a bit limited, but I think there's something that we are taking note of, and that should be prioritized. Chair, I think that these are some of the issues that I thought maybe I must comment on. But coming to the crime stats and the action plans by the province as national as well, crime detection, that is your crime intelligence, forensics, as well as the detectives, should be coming with a complementary crime detection plan to make sure that they assist the provinces in making sure that we detect our offenders. And then also the issue of the repeat offenders and parolees, that's something that the plans also consist of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, General.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members. The question that relate to the DPCI is one that is dealing with the bogus doctors. Indeed, this investigation is being conducted by the DPCI. There are allegations and counter allegations around those investigations. While one investigation was completed, there were counter allegations that were raised. It has to deal with the one that is being accused of being a bogus doctor, and then those who are being accused, alleged of being involved in the issuance of documents relating to the practice. Then you go further to find that in the process of investigation, there are actually others who are in the process who have registered students. So then you also find allegations that have come to of corruption of those who are involved in the investigation, those who are involved in decision making of prosecution and otherwise, which I think then it meant that I had to summon all the investigation to come at a central place, which is what we are currently doing. But one matter is the one that we will be forwarding back to the prosecutor who has now been appointed, moving away from the previous one that was allocated the particular investigation for decision. We expect that soon a decision will be made in respect of the matter that I say is completed. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, could I just indicate that I'm cognizant of the fact that we have a joint sitting at 2. So we still have committee reports which we have to adopt. And I wanted the members, I do not see us having circulated the draft program, but I wanted members to look at the draft program. Do we have it circulated? It's not copied. So I wanted to finalize this section of the crime stats by 12:30. I'm trying to get an indication from the members and then look at the reports and adopt the reports. National Commissioner, could I do such a ruling? Because the last time I let you leave very early. Now today you are lucky because I was going to keep you here till 4 o'clock today. So you've been saved by the joint sitting. In fact, I was going to keep you here till 9 o'clock this evening. I came very well prepared. Next time, National Commissioner, please come with your own lunch because you saw Parliament is on a cost saving mechanism, which, which does not include refreshments. Now, I will make sure that you do have, because we have to take note that the police brings a very sizable delegation, and we respect you for that. So, General, do you have more inputs before? Yes, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's General Masemula and just one provincial commissioner left. And just before General Masemula takes the floor, that question of vetting in the Western Cape, I think the Western Cape is gonna be the first to run a vetting project on CPF. So they're gonna start it and we're gonna work on it. So we will link it to the review of the community policing in the Western Cape. With your permission, Chair, General Masemula can take the floor. And then last one will be the provincial commissioner.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. The question, I think the first question is the one around the firearms of deceased people. These firearms, in terms of the current law, are handled in terms of the estate. They are kept at the Master of the High Court, and some families do take them to police stations, and then that's where they are kept until a license is applied for. But however, what we do is, within a reasonable time, if there is no application by any of the families or they sell the firearm, we give them notice that this firearm is going to be destroyed. Then those that we have within the police stations, then we take them through the processes of destruction. Of course, those that are at the Master of High Court, it takes a little bit of a time. The second question was around crime happening over the weekends. We do have crime combating operations, stabilization operations currently in the country, specifically in the bigger province, your KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, Gauteng, where we and the province are assisting one another in stabilization operations. But of course, they will have sub-names in the various operations, but mostly we have the main operation, which is stabilization, and you have failure operations, which we do deploy over weekends with the assistance of reservists. And of course, some of your specialized units that were not used during the week, we also employ them, of course, during those weekends. There was a question also on domestic violence registers. Each police station, we have domestic violence registers. You'd recall that one register is used for, of course, for the public. There is a register used specifically for members of the police if they do not assist the public, and a report is given to the station commander or seniors that certain things were not complied with, and then they get reported, and we call it non-compliance, meaning there will be disciplinary steps taken against, of course, those members of the police. There was also a question on the engagements of other departments in terms of drug trade. At the national and provincial level, at the national joint structures, we do engage departments of social development. Yes, we cannot say we are at a pace where we can say we are fully integrated currently. We have not yet reached that level that we would want to be, but we are working towards that, where we will be able to have all departments, especially your social development and Department of Education and Human Settlement, are the most departments that are required to work with us closely, because our problems are related in terms of drugs, especially
the addicts needs to go for rehabilitation, and if there is no rehabilitation, it becomes a problem because they fall back into the problem of drug use. Yeah, I think I spoke about domestic violence registers. Yeah, I think it's all the questions. Now, there was a question about the closing down of taverns by designated police officers. Where taverns are identified, if a station does not have enough capacity, they partner with either the cluster or the next station. They do operations targeting closing those taverns. Of course, now and then you'll find that some taverns reopens based on, of course, we have different liquor laws in all the provinces. It works differently, but of course an illegal tavern or a shebeen remains a shebeen. But we have that problem of resurfacing as and when we go along. I think basically those were the questions. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable Chair, and honorable members. Mine is to give the context and the perspective of the situation in provinces without defending the status quo. I think what we have experienced in the last financial year, which is under review, is that in the build-up towards the elections, we had inter and intra-party tensions that led to the escalation of violence, and that resulted in some cases a upward surge of cases of malicious damage to property, cases of public violence and arson. And there was an escalation as well on the service delivery protest, where some acts of violence were unprecedented in their proportions, and that resulted in various cases of assault GBH and other crimes that were committed during those violent protests. The committee might have noted that the CIT robberies have gone down. They were suppressed by the actions and collaborations between provinces with national and then between provinces themselves. And that has assisted a lot, that kind of collaboration, as it was mentioned by the Honorable Minister. There's been an impact as well on the illicit mining and the illicit miners fighting for the loot. And as a result of that, we have seen some cases of murders and assault GBH and the proliferation of arms in that conflict. But that we are working together with DMR. There is an arrangement between the department, SAPS, and the Department of Minerals and Energy to form a committee or a unit. We do have task teams in the provinces to deal with the scourge of this illicit mining. The question of wildlife crimes, there's been a little bit of a downward trend in terms of poaching, but that is because there's been skirmishes and some kind of contact with the law enforcement and the poachers, which also might have resulted in the number of firearms recovered in your areas of Skukuza and other areas that other provinces have wildlife on. The rape and sexual offences may have escalated, but I think what is important is what the minister has said, that the detection and conviction rate on those cases has been very good, and there has been sentences and the life sentences mostly that have been achieved by our detection, our investigators in that regard. The minister intimated that there might be an opportunity for the presentation to be done to the portfolio committee, which will show that much as these crimes have been committed, but there has been a reaction, appropriate reaction to those. With regard to the crimes of murder, because mostly General Skukune explained that they happen amongst those who know each other and beyond the police reach, and they are influenced by drugs, alcohol, abuse, and misunderstandings amongst people. But I think as law enforcement, we do have systems in place after having looked at the causes of these crimes of murder. We enforce our drug master plan, and when we say some of them are beyond reach, we cite an example of a mother who poisoned his 4 kids, for example. We cite an example of a father in Britain who took his kids from school, went home and killed all of them. The serial killer, for instance, in Masoi, who has killed the girls who were known to him and buried them in the yard. So, hence, we are saying that in all those cases, though, we have managed to investigate and apprehend the perpetrator in most of them. And there can be different cases cited in different provinces, because we do have such cases in all the provinces. Now, the firearms retrieved from the poachers might increase the number of firearms in our position, which is the good work in our view that has been done by the police. And we are focusing now on Izimbizo and other issues where we are mobilizing community to assist us. So what we are doing, we are mobilizing community, but at the same time, there is cooperation between all the stakeholders through the Prof Joint, where all stakeholders are present. We have once a month meetings and we engage all stakeholders, although it is not to the satisfaction of ourselves, but we can improve on that. I think I will take it that far. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner, the divisional commissioner from Operational Response Services has been very, very good now. He just started analyzing these statistics for us. So when you come back, please, could you ask him to do a more detailed analysis? He just started a very good analysis, but he's coming in towards the end. So please, General, don't stay away. Next time, sit in the front benches and give us that analysis. You've been promoted to the front benches. It's only in Parliament where you can sit in the front benches. In the church, you'll never receive promotion to a front bench. Not even in a church. People have their allocated seats. Honourable members, that takes care of, for now, the crime statistics. Because we are going to be running, if we want to finish at 1 o'clock. How many members still have just one? Could I see? Clarities, we're going to another round. I'm afraid that if I allow just one, then I must allow all the hands. We are not going to finish by 1 o'clock, honourable members. Must we go on until 2?
No. With due respect, Chair, I don't think we are going to do justice to some of the questions that we may have. So I don't think 1 o'clock we will all have finished. I think you should think of other measures. But for now, I don't think so.
I propose that we have another session with the police. Honourable members, I propose that we have another session with the police.
Chair, I think as I see the whip's hand is up, with me it was not another thing, it was just a question that was not answered. And I want to take an opportunity that the General from Gauteng, Commissioner, is here, about the Brooklyn Police Station. And I think it's one of the things that we said, it's always good to have provincial commissioners with us, especially in problem areas. Then when he is here and he can't answer on that, it's a futile exercise.
I'll ask him to answer. Honourable Whip.
It's the same, Honorable Chairs, that as I said, they've presented the stats, and we called them again here. I just wanted to make a comment so that when they go also, as I said, we must not just sit here as if they're an opposition party. We must also do something because we are part of the society. We live amongst the people and you know what is happening. But it's not that we must come and report in parliament because my police station is next to me. I can go and report. If I don't get joy at the police station, I'll go to the senior that we have got their numbers. But what I was just going to say, Chair, is that with the report by the commissioner here, the national commissioner of the DPCI shortage, if we don't raise these things out, and also if you speak about your achievements somewhere, the society outside it's going to look at you negatively. Obviously, there are other people who will use such things for political gains. And that is why we said as a committee, we don't want to use crime as a political game, but as an issue that it's a societal issue that is affecting all of us. And we must attack it together with the police. And if we have suggestion, that is why you are giving us an open door policy as we are doing that. You can come at any time and report. So if the DPCI is at 50%, so the criticism is going to come that you are not doing your work, because we are not talking about these things that are affecting you, that we don't have resources, especially at this. Why these cases are not addressed, especially the serious ones, are not addressed, it's because we have got the shortage. But the community outside there does not take it like that. I'm happy with the advertisement that you're going to re-enlist. It's going to assist. I just want to reiterate the issue of the Amaperet. Mina nomkhaya la, we're from Soweto. In Moroka, they used to call it Moroka. When they come with their bus, the Quantum, people will disappear in the streets. And that thing reduced crime. Serious, it reduced crime. And it also changed the mindset of our people, how to behave, especially the young ones. With Imroga is coming, I must not carry anything. So if you bring that thing, psychologically it changes. Even when they go to the taverns, now they close the streets because you have dropped the ball. We can't drive. If they do something, they've closed the street, you can't go, pass through. So because we have dropped the ball. So if we go back to those things and review them, if you are attacked, you can answer, and if the parliament is requested to respond, we can respond. Because it is affecting us, in particular the Africans. That's where crime is happening. Lastly, Chair, is the illicit mining that the general was speaking about. I'm not sure whether they come back next time with the plan. But I don't think we are taking the issue of illicit mining very serious. And I'm not sure whether the intelligence does have the information of what is happening with the illicit mining, because it's an organized crime. It's not just the community of that area that is doing illicit mining. It's not the people of that area. You get people.
Honorable Whip,
Okay, thank you.
please finish.
I just wanted to, it's as an advice, but I can also write it and give it to the police. But because I'm part of the society, I live amongst, and these are our people that are dying. And when they fight amongst themselves, they go and kill our communities there. 20 die. because of illicit mining. But I can, Chair, do it on another day, or I can go to any other general and report about it. But it is an organized crime. Lastly, it's some of the
Honorable
corrupt
Whip, that was
officials.
already your loss.
No, did I say last, Chair?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear myself. With due respect, Chair, that the
Thank you.
last one is that, can you please try and address the issues that are raised by our people? Because some of the things that people end up taking the law unto themselves is because these things are not addressed. If they report the person is out tomorrow, I know it's not a competence, it's an NPA competency, but it comes back to you. People do not blame the NPA. They blame the police because we don't educate our people about the differences, as if we are not one government. That's why the commissioner was talking about the cluster, that we must talk to each other. Thank you, Comrade Chair, for your patience.
Thank you, Honorable Mafanya. You happy, Honorable Sheikh?
Yeah, very quickly. Thank you, Chair. I think two things very quickly. Just the first one is this. I think we discussed previously with the shortage of resources, particularly of vehicles. Have you now put a mechanism to check whether each station on a monthly basis can have a full report on where your vehicles are at any given time, together with the tracking report? Because very often your vehicles are parked by people's houses and shopping and going to school, and yet we complain about resources. The second thing is this: if you remember previously, we've discussed in terms of your detectives, who are limited in number, but who carry a lot of dockets. And remember, a lot of the criminals in those areas are suspects, are repeat offenders. Whether there's any collusion, whether it's the detectives handling the same criminal suspects, and what is the rate of acquittal and withdrawals in those cases, to see whether there's a pattern and whether there's a process in place to ensure that the same detective does not handle matters of involving the same criminal. Thank you. Or suspect.
General, National Commissioner, I would like to summarize as follows before you give responses, because in your responses you should also indicate if you are happy with the following. The first is that there is an intercluster engagement. Honourable members, please listen, because after this you will agree or disagree or add to the summary. The intercluster engagement, which would be the Jcps, I chair the peace and stability or peace and security cluster of the political party I belong to, so we'll bring the justice crime prevention cluster and the peace and stability cluster, which consists of police, defense and military veterans, justice and correctional services, home affairs, state security, and international relations. Could we start with that cluster? Please, we know finance and we need public works, but could we start with that cluster? Could you advise me if you would be happy with those portfolios? 2, that we receive provincial action plans which target specific areas with prioritized 3 provinces. Provincial action plans, we prioritize 3 provinces. We need target areas, specific areas for immediate action, medium-term action, and long-term intervention. 3, that we need a clear idea of the budgets for intervention. When we did our oversight in the Western Cape, the SANDF raised their concerns that they were doing we said they were doing very well, they were doing very well, but they needed a budget if they needed to stay in the Western Cape for much longer. The President has subsequently extended their stay until next year. But this portfolio committee would not be doing its work if we didn't ask about the budget. if there's any interventions announced by the President today, we need to follow up with the budget and oversight. 4 is a strong feeling that there should be, you have spoken about the crime Lagotla, but we could call it a crime summit. 5, that we review any legislation which could assist us in addressing the scourge of gender-based violence and crime. 6, that there's the vetting of CPFs because community police fora, neighborhood watchers, that they be vetted. Because if we are going to consider engaging with them on a significant basis, we would have to vet the community participation with the police. The KwaZulu-Natal government has launched a program where communities are deployed to schools. So that is also quite an interesting phenomenon. I haven't been able to include each and every matter in the summary. I'm requesting that we keep that the summary to the 6 areas. If that summary does not represent your views, then I'm not going to discuss it, but I'll take it in the next meeting. So could I rather hand over to the police to, as Honorable Mofokeng indicated, respond directly to the outstanding questions which were asked. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Firstly, let me confirm and appreciate the summary, because that's actually the way we would like to avail information and account to the committee. And the rest of the strategic managers, they here, they with me, and they listening. So we're gonna work on information based on the summary. Just a straightforward question. Amaberete, they are coming back. Yeah, one of the interventions in place, I think Lieutenant General Mkwanazi is busy with the revival of medium and high-risk forces. They include TRT, National Intervention Unit, and Special Task Force. The Special Task Force, they also going to work hand in glove with the CATs. So the situations that we'll be face to face with, they will determine which forces. But we are also increasing the capacity of these medium and high risk forces, which include TRT. So it's coming back together with the specialized units. We are working on reinstating the resources which they had before, so that we enable them to relate. Then I had a recent meeting, Honorable Chair, with the DG of Mineral and Energy, together with his team. There we have agreed on the establishment of an illicit mining unit. And there's currently a work study which we have commissioned. And it's an agent unit that must respond to illicit mining. So that unit will also be in action very soon. Then addressing the issues by the people, we have activated community policing, and we presently were busy with the summits. We're done with the summit of the Western Cape, the crime summits. And we are involving all the communities, but we've formally introduced the service charter to the communities, and as well as the service promise, so that when they raise issues, we we translate them to service delivery priorities, and we improve the services that we actually providing to them. Then the tracking of vehicles, we've got the AVL system. And we once had a contract problem with it. We tasked the supply chain and CFO function to rework on it. Currently is being utilized, but we are now monitoring all the users for optimal utilization of the AVL for operational purposes. And that includes locating vehicles even during the operation when there's complaints, so that we make sure that they all rallied that is around. The last one was, are we using the same detective for the same cases? We try as far as we can not to. But what we want to put forward is that the repeat offender profile is rapidly growing and is actually trying to come close to the total number of dockets carried by one investigator. And the repeat offender is one of the profiles that we need to work together on so that we correct it. I'm sure one of the honorable members have spoken, and the minister is related to it, where a 193 sentence person is consideration for parole. But the created situation, when you come with criminals to correctional services, because they can't carry the pressure also. So everyone now wants to alleviate the pressure. So they stand outside with a parole register. As you get the prisoners off, they look at who can we give parole, just to alleviate. So it's overcrowding problems. Every system is overloaded. Now, the reason why we support the initiative by the cluster, the intercluster, and the National Crime Prevention Framework is to unlock the criminal justice value chain. And if we work together, because what's happening, the societal problems are the ones that clog the criminal justice system value chain. And if we can work together, we can be able to alleviate it. But we are looking forward to the commitments that we made and the direction that the committee has given. And we're going to work extremely hard. Once again, we want to appreciate the direction of the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further responses? General, you
Maybe
could indicate your
just
team.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chair. I think Brooklyn Police Station, General Mawela is here. Can he, with your permission, we give him the opportunity. And the other police station, I think that was raised, there was a need for inspection. Within 7 days, visible policing and inspectorate, they shall have gone to that police station. They will check on it and they will provide a report. General Mawela.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Chairperson and honorable members, I may not know the reasons why people choose Brooklyn Police Station, the actual reasons. Maybe it's because of our policies. They allow a person to can report a case at any police station they feel comfortable at, and then irrespective of the scene of crime. And once the case is registered, then it will be referred to the police station where the scene of crime is. But also just to make mention of the geographic position of Brooklyn Police Station. It is situated whereby it's responsible for the Union Building, it's responsible for the Waterkloof Ridge, it's responsible for 57 embassies and foreign missions. So by its location, majority of the people who are staying in that particular environment, surely they'll prefer to can go to that police station to report cases. Thanks.
Maybe, Chair, if I can add, we, over and above the explanation given by General Mawela, we are going to task Inspectorate to zoom deeper into the supporting the province, and we can then see if we reach the root cause of the problem, how can we support the province just to deal with it. Thank you, Chair.
Members, I think that we could thank General Sitole, the National Commissioner, with all the generals who attended with us today. General, just we'll send you the dates because remember when we come back, we have to look at the Auditor General's report and the annual reports. So we'll be seeing you when we return on a daily basis. But what I'm suggesting is that on the 5th of November, which is a Tuesday, I'll consider a cluster meeting with the other chairpersons and also invite the ministers and the deputies of the cluster I mentioned. But it's subject to whether the members agree to the program. So, Honourable General, again, thank you very much. You are released. And please do not complain because from now onwards you're going to see us every day. Thank you, General. Your team, thank you very much. They did very well for the presentations. Again, my apologies that we didn't feed you. Thank you very much, General. Honourable members, please return speedily. The next item on our agenda, we'll come back to the crime stats. Whilst we have the police leaving the meeting, could you turn to the oversight visit? The one was the draft report on the joint oversight visit to the Cape Flats with the Portfolio Committee of Police as well as Defence and Military Veterans. That report was sent to us. Honourable Member Mafanya, you know I'm going to see between the two of you. I know Mafanya, I'm going to ask that you tell your member he must come back. I'm teasing. Thank you, Honourable Member Shembeni. I didn't want to call you myself because I know in your there's an order, you know. I can't call you back.